Hey, thanks so much, Graham. And aloha. Hey, everybody. I'm super excited to talk about one of my passions, the 1031 exchange. A little bit of background. My name is Danny Ihara. I've been in real estate for 18 years. I've been in Gary's group for a decade, 10 years. And I have a group coaching class called Fast Track, the Securing Listings with the Wealthy, right? So that's open to anybody in and outside of KW. We're going to show you at the end how you can apply. And then also the leader of KW Real Estate Planner. For those of you who want to take it to the next level, we can talk about that as well. So let's get on with doubling your business. Right. So today's world is challenging because, we're all having trouble getting listings. Well, most of us are. But what if you mastered the 1031 exchange? What if you knew how to support the wealthy older adult that wanted to transition wealth in real estate? Right. Well, the best way to do that is through the 1031 exchange. You see, because the number one enemy to building generational wealth is capital gains taxes. And when you understand how to calculate that, when you understand what it means to every individual, and then you understand the problem and then bring a solution to it, you're going to get listings. And here's the cool thing. You got one client with 2 transactions at a bare minimum. Okay, at a bare minimum. So let's go on and take a look at this. So what does that look like? The opportunity 31, actually that's 34% now. That's actually wrong. I got to change that. It's old data. 34% of all households are rentals. 1 in every 3 guys. That's 44 million potential listings that you could actually go after. These are people that own them, that don't live in the property, right? Just imagine if you were able to attract those people and ask certain questions that might help them understand what they could do with it. Because most people just don't understand. So there's 3 tips to secure the listing with investors. Number 1 is you got to understand what the real opportunity is. We're going to talk about that. We're going to then define what their goal is and then create a plan around that. See, it's really simple if you think about it. Many people avoid 1031 exchanges because they're frankly afraid of them. There's a tax consequence that's enormous to them in many cases. And it's something that frankly other people do. Well, when I got into real estate, one of the first things I realized was that the demographic that we serve is the wealthy older adult that had to move from their home to another place. We call that senior relocation services, right? And so we mastered that. Soon thereafter, though, we found that these same people had investment properties. So let me give you your first tip of the day. Your first question that you ask anybody, but in particular, if you go to a listing appointment, is, what other properties do you currently own? See, most people don't ask that simple question because when you go to a listing, you're focused on the listing at hand and you don't want to go beyond that. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. See, because when I started asking that, I realized that they had so many other problems than just their home, right? Because has anybody heard of a family fight over real estate after mom and dad died? Yeah, we all did. Well, we're going to talk about why that is and how we solve that problem today, okay? And this is what's attracting listings to us. I'd say more than 50%, probably 60% of all of our transactions today are 1031 exchanges. Why? Because we're at the brink of the largest transfer of wealth in America. Baby boomers and their parents are passing on. What that means is mom's home that she used to live in is now vacant. And now it's an investment property for somebody else. And this demographic is going to grow for the next 20 years. There's 10,000 baby boomers every single day being in the age of 65. Right? So what's the opportunity? Well, ask, do they own any other properties? And who do you know who owns any investment properties? That's your first question. You want to identify who they are first. Okay, once you identify, somebody says, yes, I have them. Your other question can be like, where else do I find them? It's in your database, really. Just call the people you know and ask them, do you have any other properties? Do you have any investment properties? They say no. Then the first question is, if you could, would you? And they go, yeah, I want one. You got yourself a buyer. Just 2 questions can get you a buyer, right? If they're interested, if they have money, you want to find out if they got some down payment, right, for being an investor. Let's say they say yes, they do have an investment properties. And then you can really help them understand what you can do with them. So in your database, right, and open houses. You guys do open houses? We have a number of agents that actually didn't do open houses. And I'm telling you today that what Gary Keller told me 10 years ago, and it's in the MRA book, is every listing should be 3 transactions. The listing you're selling, a new buyer, and a new seller. Use your open houses to get more business. It is the best opportunity. It's the best 3 hours of the week for any realtor. And if you're not sitting in an open house, I don't know why you're not. It doesn't make any sense to me, because where do people go for 3 hours on a Sunday other than church? They go, if they're interested, and by the way, these are qualified people. I mean, they're raising their hand saying, I'm interested. We should be there. Okay. And so we have a whole model around that as well. Direct mail with a thing called PropStream. If any of you know what PropStream is, PropStream is a process and a system where you can find data of people. Like we mail to vacant homes over $1 million, and they own them more than 7 years. Why? Because that person's an investor and he has an investment that's not generating any money to him. What if you could change that person's life? What if you could put $2,000-3,000 in their pocket today versus spending money on having just paying property tax, right? You can change somebody's life that way, right? Door knocking, right? Administrators, executives, personal representatives. We focus in our class, we talk about trust sales and probate sales. For the main reason is because there's 2.1 million older adults that will die this year, and 80% of them own real estate. That's 1.68 million listings that will likely hit the market in either the form of a trust sale and probate sale. So what if you understood that? What if you knew how to get in front of them? What if you understood their problems? And what if you had solutions to their problems? You're going to get a listing. It's really not that difficult, ladies and gentlemen. We have been doing this a long time, and so we've mastered it, and we put this in a bottle and in a box in our fast track coaching program and in our community called Keller Williams Real Estate Planners. Trustees, right? Because what happens is if somebody passes away, there's a trustee. Well, at the end of the day, that person, mom and dad, had assigned the most responsible child to be the trustee, right? Do they know what to do? No, they don't know what to do. And so they're going to come to you and they're clueless. And then you're not going to know what to do. So that was me in the past. We now have a seminar called I'm a Trustee, Now What? There's 21 responsibilities a trustee has that they don't even know until they get into the job. We've been doing these seminars. We did it before COVID. We brought it back the last 2 months. We did it. We got 6 appointments at every seminar that we did. And each person is going to have multiple transactions. Right? You can build a massive business once you understand what the problems are, what the solutions are, how to approach it, how to find them, right? And pretty much everywhere you are, you're going to find these investors. So the first question is identifying the goal. So what was the goal in owning it, right? Well, most of the time they're going to think, well, my goal is for my kids, or maybe it's a second home. Or a lot of the times what you're going to find is they didn't have a goal in owning it. They just got it because somebody passed away. And so they either bought it intentionally or they inherited it. Okay. And that's what you're going to see more and more of. Every single year, older adults are going to pass away and it's going to go on to their kids, and the kids don't know what to do with it. And for the kids, it'll be an investment property, right? Or did they actually intentionally buy it? Now, odds are less than 50% of the time that they actually bought it. What we're seeing today in most markets is they're inheriting it. But let's just say they went out to analyze it, and then their goal is financially, right? Their goal is to divide the assets. Their goal is to create cash flow for long-term care needs, right? Or maybe just hold it for appreciation, right? And either way, we do this thing. When somebody says, well, I need the money to do whatever with, right? So if you start by asking one simple question of, for your investment properties, do you need the money to sustain the life you desire? Do you need the money to sustain the life you desire? See, if the answer is yes, you're going to go and analyze that asset. You're going to do an asset performance test, which is a cap rate analysis and a cash on cash analysis, right? You're going to do that for them to show them what's their rate of return. 90% of the time, probably 95% of the time, their properties are underperforming. And so if they say they need the cash to sustain the life they desire, your goal should be to improve the return on that money. So when you dive deep into this world of investors, you're going to realize that you're going to find the best deals in your market. You're going to measure them. We've got these spreadsheets that are just fully, they don't get any better than what we've built because it's taken us about a decade to fine tune these things. And we have that in our community. And what you can do is then measure that every asset that your client has, you show them they're getting a low rate of return. And you say, if you could make more money, would you? They're going to say yes. That means you have a seller and a buyer, all in the same client. You're going to do a 1031 exchange, right? And let's just say they say to you, well, I don't need the money to sustain the life I desire. I have more money than I can spend. Frankly, that's most of our clients. See, if you focus on the wealthy older adult, they're not in need of money. They're in need of transferring wealth. And that's where you're going to get another 1031 exchange, because you're going to help them learn how to transfer real estate wealth without capital gains tax. And the question is, if you could, would you? Right? If you could do that, would you? It's a simple question. In our coaching that I do, and my life has been about asking good questions versus talking at people. You see, one of the things I've been traveling around the country for a number of months now, 18 days on the road all over the country, training these things. And what I found was we all have a problem. And especially if you get good at real estate, if you do a lot of it, if you're successful at it, there's this thing called ego that shows up, and it gets in our way, right? Because we know what they want, right? When we tell them what they want versus ask them. And so what you're going to find in all of the coaching that I personally do is I'm going to come from curiosity first. I'm going to ask the question, right? And that's the best question. If you could, would you? That's a universal question. If somebody comes to an open house and you ask them, where do you live? And they say, well, I live up the street. And I said, when did you buy that? And said, oh, I don't own it. I rent. I said, if you could own, would you? They go, yes. You have a new buyer. You see, that simple question can be used universally all over your real estate career. If you could, would you? Right? Because now you're not forcing somebody to do something. Well, you should buy something. Well, how is that going to work? Right? They're going to push back on you. Right? But if you, in our community, it's about building, protecting, and transferring wealth. Okay. So if you could, would you? And the answer is going to be yes in many cases. So tip number 3 is to create a plan. First thing is the emotional decision, right? And what you're going to find out is, at the end of the day, when you're gone, who's going to get what? And they're going to say, well, I don't really know. So if you could help your kids today, would you? And say, yeah. And if they don't need the money for their sustain the life they desire, now you're selling a property, buying another one, and helping the kids out, right? Because what they all tell me is, oh, I left it in the trust, and I'm going to give it to my kids. Right? My kids are going to get it, right? Well, I asked them, well, how does that work? Tell me, how does that work? So, well, no, the trust says they'll split it up. I go, oh, I got a couple questions for you. How do you split real estate? And they go, I don't know, they'll figure it out. And then I ask them, oh, have you ever heard of a family fight over real estate after mom and dad die? And they go, oh yeah, it happens all the time. Why does that happen? Because of your plan. you can't divide real estate. And it's wild. The world doesn't realize you can't divide real estate. And so I say to them and said, so what is your goal at the end? Well, I'm going to get it to my kids. And I said, well, if you could give it to your kids today, would you? And you go, yeah, I probably would. I said, well, here's how it works. We sell them one asset. If you have 3 kids, we buy 3 assets. You're doing a 1031 exchange. 1, you don't have the burden of the property. 2, there's no capital gain taxes. And 3, you get to bless your kids. But the best part, number 4, you'll never have a family dispute. Would you like to create an environment that you have no family dispute? They go, yes, right? Earlier on in that conversation, the way I set that up typically, because I didn't do this right today, is I asked them, how many kids you got? And they go, oh, I got 3 kids. I said, let me ask you, Are all of them alike? They go, no. Do they think alike? No. Do they act alike? No. Are they in the same economic phase of life? No. So what you're doing is you're putting it in trust on a shelf. And when you die, they're going to be in business with the most amount of wealth they've ever seen in their life. How's that going to work for you if they don't agree today? He goes, oh no, we're going to have a problem. So yeah, there's a good chance that could show up. Right? Would you like to solve that problem? Yes. Then you roll into this example of selling one, buying multiple. Here's the best thing about it. The kids can then predetermine their inheritance. Grandma or mom can bless her kids or grandkids today while she's alive without tax, without the burden, and then she'll be able to reap the benefits of the gratitude, right? This is how we keep families together, ladies and gentlemen. See, because the world does a really good job breaking our families apart. Would you agree? Yeah, the world does a good job at that. And if you think about it, most of the big family fights is because of real estate, because you can't divide it. You see, because if one brother gets into a beef with the sister, what are these telling their kids? Don't talk to your auntie and uncle because they're bad people. That goes generational. And I'm sure you've all seen it at some point. This is a phenomenon we're having, and we're on a platform and a mission today to keep families together. And we do that with what we do. We're in real estate. We help create plans for people to keep them together, to minimize the burden, to remove capital gain taxes from their life. And this is the process that we do that. Now, if they say, I need money from the property to sustain the life I desire, then we're going to do a thing called an asset performance test. What's that? Because I'd ask them, do you know how your asset's performing? They go, oh, no, it's great. I said, what does great look like? Well, Johnny's been there for 25 years. He's a great guy. You know what that tells you? They're not making much money on the property, right? But Johnny's a great guy. So what they do is they lean into the emotional decision of Johnny's a great guy. He's like family to me. Well, is he family? Well, no, because when he leaves that place, he ain't going to call you again. He's going off to another landlord. But people get stuck on this. They make emotional decisions when they should make financial decisions. And that's the first step, is getting to understand that if your home that you live in, your primary residence, you absolutely should make emotional decisions on it. That's where you're going to house your family. But if you're not going to live in it, then what is that? That's an investment property. That's like a stock, Costco stock, right? You don't care where the Costco's are. You just want to make sure that stock makes money. That's how we have to turn their head on to see that they have to change the way they're thinking about the real estate, that they should be making financial decisions. And when they ask, when you ask them, how is it performing? They can't give you an answer. And you ask them, if you could make more money on your property, would you? The answer is going to be yes. So here's what we could do. I can't promise you to do that, but I can help you understand if there's an opportunity here. So what you do is you send me your income and your expenses. I'll run an analysis on it, and I'll tell you what your rate of return is. And if you can make more money, would you? The answer is yes, right? That's how you get. It's just so easy, ladies and gentlemen, to get listings today if you approach it properly, right? And you approach it by, if you notice, most of those are questions, right? I'm not telling them what to do. I'm asking them. I'm drawing them near to me. I'm attracting them to us versus talking at them. And then what we do is we put it on a calendar and we execute. Some of the challenges they're going to have, and you need to provide solutions to these, is decluttering, right? Clearing out the stuff. I own a company called Senior Move Managers in Declutter Hawaii for 14 years. We moved over 1,600 families, clearing out their stuff, the lifetime of treasures or the clutter, one of the two. All right. It's going to be the biggest problem they have, right? Especially if mom passed away, it's a trust sale or a probate sale. It's highly emotional. And when you can provide those solutions, you're going to get business. The community will know you have solutions. Here's something you may want to write down. NASM, National Association of Senior Move Managers, NASMM. And what that is an organization just like mine where they help them downsize, declutter, and move. You see, don't do what I did. Don't create your own company. Go use the ones that are already there. And by the way, when you get to lead generate for those people, they could be a lead source to you. They could actually send you business. right? And which they do for many of our community members. Getting good at getting the repairs done, having solutions for anything. When you have confidence in your listing appointment that you can take care of anything, they will listen to you. Because most realtors will say, well, call me when you're ready and I'll put a sign in this ground. Okay. No, you want to get in front of that business and you want to provide solutions to their problem. Staging as well, photos, marketing, all those things that you guys know how to do. And then simultaneously, you're going to look for a replacement property, right? Because you're doing a 1031 exchange. You don't end a 1031 exchange until you close on the relinquished property, right? And we have to understand their goals and they have to understand time restraints. You got to figure out what they're looking for, what their goals of owning that is. So what's the opportunity? You know, investment properties are a burden for this demographic. We're talking the mature adult baby boomers and their parents, right? They don't want to pay capital gains taxes. In fact, I had a meeting yesterday. A lady came to us. She said, I came to your class about 1031 exchange. That's really fascinating. I never heard of this before. And she said, I talked to my CPA and she said, don't sell my property. And she said, well, I said, why did she say that? She said, oh, because you're going to pay capital gains taxes. And that's where it ended. And she said, but I don't think she knows what a 1031 exchange because she never brought it up. I said, that's absolutely true. There's so many tax accountants, consultants, CPAs that are afraid of it or don't know enough about it. And so I go and teach these people. Right? What if you master the 1031 exchange to the point where you can teach financial planners, CPAs, and trust attorneys? On Wednesday, I spoke to the largest bank in our market, and I spoke to the 10 or 12 wealth advisors of the wealthiest people in our market. And these people have investment properties. And I taught them about 1031 exchanges. And they were blown away because they didn't know what you could do with it, right? And there's a huge opportunity. I believe it's the most underutilized tool in real estate in America today because most people are shying away from it because they're afraid of it. I'm telling you, lean into it, learn how to execute on it, make sure it's bulletproof because we have a system to bulletproof that, right? So that you never fail. Yeah, I've outgone close to 300-400 of these. I've never failed one yet, and I'm not planning to. We have a system around that, right? The other thing they want to do is at some point they're thinking about significance for themselves because as you get older, you know, they want to simplify life and they're worrying about their kids. They're worrying about little Johnny that might mess this one up, right? Little Johnny, he's a good kid, but man, he's not the sharpest tool in the box and he can't manage these properties. And oh man, him and his sister Ann, they're going to fight like heck when I'm gone because they don't agree today. Now they got to come into agreement and be in business together with the most amount of wealth they've ever seen in their life. The cool thing about this is once they understand the 1031 exchange, you're a motivated seller and you're a strong buyer. Why? Because you're on time frames. And typically this demographic, they don't have debt. I ask the clients, everyone I meet with, I said, do you have a mortgage on your property? And they all kind of laugh at me like, of course not. You know, they're 70, 80 years old. Of course not, because they paid it off many years ago. What does that mean? You're going to sell a property with no mortgage and you're going to be the cash buyer, right? You'll be the strongest, most motivated cash buyer because they have to buy it within a time frame, right? Okay, so is it a good time to do a 1031 exchange? It's a great time if you want to upgrade or increase your portfolio. Right? If you want to increase, relocate the asset, many people want to use their investment property that they don't really want anymore. They're going to use it for their kids. The kids need a house or their grandkids. They're going to college instead of renting. Boy, it would be great if they had a place to live and, you know, I could provide that for them. They're going to want to do that, right? Today we've got 4 clients doing that for their grandkids, right? Exchanging to a lower cost or a lower maintenance asset, really common now. You know, some of these AOA associations, their costs have gone up and the income hasn't, right? So that means their net return is low. Some are going to exchange for a higher cash flow market. We see more and more of that today. And in markets like Hawaii and California and some of the East Coast, where your cap rate's 2 to 4%, we see people going to Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, Florida, Texas, that area where the return is higher, right? Your rate of return is higher, right? And then many are doing this because the property that they have is in poor condition. And the roof's on its way out. If that thing leaks, I'm going to have to pay $20,000 into that. And I don't want to do that because I'll never get my money back. Let's go and sell this and let's go buy something newer. We have 3 clients doing that today. Right. So these are all things that are out there that maybe you never considered. Land is probably the best asset to sell for a 1031 exchange. Why? Because it typically doesn't generate income, right? So you have an asset you pay property tax on and it has no income. I call that a negative asset, right? I mean, if you're not generating 2 to 3% at a bare minimum, you're going backwards in time, and because you're not even keeping up with inflation, right? So that's not a good thing. So imagine if you were the person that spoke in your marketplace and you taught people that building wealth could be a good thing, that there's 3 things you want to know about building wealth. Number 1 is a thing called appreciation, right? Appreciation, and you can measure that. It's about 4-5% a year. If you look at cycles in every market over time, that's the number, okay? There's a thing called cash flow, right? Vacant land has no cash flow. Most investment properties, if they're rented, has some level of cash flow. But what if you could improve that cash flow? What if you could put another $2,000 in your client's pocket every single month? What would they do for that? You could change somebody's life. Well, the only way to get there is to measure the performance of their asset and then have a solution to improve it. And if you really want to dive into this, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be able to do asset performance tests pretty much on every day. We do this every day, multiple times, because every client that owns an investment property should lean into a realtor that can measure its performance, right? Measure it. And vacant land doesn't have any. The other is creating a legacy for your family while you're alive. And what does that look like? Grandma selling their property, doing a 1031 exchange, buying another property for the granddaughter, allowing the granddaughter to live there. And when grandma passes away, the granddaughter gets it tax-free. No capital gains tax, no burden on the property, and no family dispute because it's all been taken care of in advance. And then lastly is this thing called depreciation. Remember, I talked about appreciation. I talked about cash flow. There's a thing called depreciation. See, for those of you who aren't aware of it, that's the 3rd leg of building wealth. See, because if you have an investment property, you get passive income. So you get income coming in that you're taxed on, right? Well, there's this thing called depreciation. What the government gives you, they say the improvement on your property, that'll last you 27 and a half years. At the end of 27 and a half years, you're going to tear it down, you're going to build another one. Well, that never happens, right? But what they do say is they take the value of the improvements, they divide it by 27 and a half years. I don't know how they came up to that number, some dodo brain. I don't know what does 27 and a half years really mean, right? Anyways, that's the rule, 27 and a half years. So they take whatever the value is of the improvements only, not the land, divided by 27 and a half years. Whatever that number is, it offsets the income. So let's say you make $3,000 over your property, but you have $2,000 of depreciation every month. Well, that means you're only taxed on $1,000 of income. This is how you build wealth, ladies and gentlemen. It adds another 20% on top of your net worth at the end of the day and your cash flow. But here's the thing. If they've owned it for greater than 27 and a half years, they're now netting 20% less money than they could if they had a property they could depreciate. Land, by the way, has no improvements. That means it's the absolute worst investment because there's no write-off. Even if you rented the land for cattle raising or whatever it is, you have income, you have no depreciation because you have no improvement on the property. Okay. So 3-legged stool, right? Appreciation, depreciation, and cash flow. And when you speak like this to the people in your marketplace, your client base, your own database, they're going to want to spend more time with you. They're going to want to pick your brain because what we say is I'm a real estate planner. I help people build, protect, and transfer wealth. Who do you know I should talk to? And everybody raises their hands. And I want to do that. So I basically changed the language from buy, sell, and invest to build, protect, and transfer. Okay. It's not as contentious of a conversation and it's more drawing them into you. to want to do business with you because they want everyone. I don't know anybody that says, I don't want to build wealth. I don't want to protect wealth. I don't want to transfer wealth. Very rarely will that happen, right? So here's our our class is, I'm actually over time. It starts, is that right? October? No, that date is not right. Let's see. Justice, are you on the call? We need to get everyone the actual date. It starts on July 19th. July 19th, 26th, August 2nd, and August 9th. There's 4 days that we'll have that class. It's 1 hour. And what we're going to talk about, oh, by the way, if you have your phone, you may want to click on the QR code because then you don't have to worry about it. And we start with understanding the opportunity. Really, the reason why that's important is most of us don't understand it. You know, this has been my world for 18 years. And this is all I know. So I'm a one-trick pony. You know, I work with wealthy older adults. And here's why. When I got into real estate, I knew that one thing I had to get good at is getting listings. And I knew that the people that had them that needed to sell were wealthy older adults. It wasn't a 20 or 30-year-old that was selling a high-priced property that had no equity. I mean, 100% equity. It was the older adults. So that was my focus. Okay. Second class will become the senior relocation specialist. That'll be a main problem for most people. They don't know where to go. They don't know how much it costs. What does life look like? How do I get there? They have problems. And not very many people are solving those problems. Right? You can be that solution. The third one is learn how 1031 exchanges and this thing called DSTs, Delaware Statutory Trusts, are used to create legacy planning, and that'll grow your business. DSTs is your safety net for the 1031 exchange. Right? It's one of the better ones for you. And then really knowing wills, trusts, and probate, right? Because 2.1 million are going to pass away, 80% of them own real estate. And it'll likely be one of those things, a trust sale or probate sale. And if you can focus on that model, you're going to get listings. Okay, so the date's wrong.
Yeah, wrap it up. We have coaching call.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to go to my next coaching call. Sorry. Any quick questions? Dan, you're right. That one trick, that's a pretty good trick. Okay. Yes, we can get you the PowerPoint. Yes. Yes, somebody had a question.
Yes, I'm a newer agent, and I definitely have an interest in this, and have been chasing succession clients, people that are going through the probate process. My question is I saw this offering that you had previously, but there was requirements that you had to be 2 years in the business with a GCI of 75,000 plus per year and all that kind of stuff. It seems like that's since been taken away. Is that correct?
Well, no, not for the community. KW Real Estate Planner does have those minimums. This class, though, you can not even be a licensed realtor and you can come to this class. You can be at a different company. You can come to this class. Yeah. So this class is open to everybody.
Okay. And what was the other one? The real estate planner those requirements are still
it's for more seasoned agents, 2 years of license in good standing and $75,000 of GCI. If you have that, reach out to us. We can get you that information. But this free class today was really focused on promoting the fast track class, securing listings with the wealthy.
Dan, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Dan, I'm recording about the 1031 investment property. If an owner sell the investment property, does it have to go to a 1031 company, or can it go to directly from one escrow company directly to another escrow company?
It must go through an accommodator, intermediary. We use First American Exchange in every state in America, but you have to go through an exchange company. You cannot just go through an escrow company, because once you touch the money, you're going to be taxed on it.
No, we're not touching the money. It's for another investment that we found the property before the 45 days.
Right. You must go through an accommodator.
Must go through a 1031 company. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm sorry. I got to run to my next call. In this QR code, there's a talk to Dan. If you want to learn more, just click on that. I'd be happy to help you. Anyways, thanks everybody for coming. And hopefully we trust that this was valuable to you. Take care now. Aloha.
Thank you.
Thank you.